So again, a very warm welcome everyone, and thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. So is it okay if we'll just maybe say hello to each other, switch on the video for once, not like a short while, and maybe just tell us where are you joining from before we start the session. It would be nice to know each other, who all are joining. So Ravi ji, would you like to start? Maybe just share where are you joining from? You are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
I've muted myself. I'm Ravi Chandran. I'm from Bangalore.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been on those Thursday 2:45 programs.
Yeah, you have been with
Thank
us for
you.
Savitri sessions. You have been with.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Thank you for.
Thank you for joining.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Aisha, maybe would if yeah. Nice light and dark effect you have. Yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm really looking forward to.
Your voice was cracking.
I'm
Yeah.
joining from Ladakh.
Yeah. Great.
I'm joining from Ladakh,
Yes. Too
and
cool.
I really look forward to
Thank you.
this.
Thanks for joining. Yeah, so hi everyone, Kapil and Jashoda, Jasmine, Riddhi. So we are just sharing where are we joining from. If you can just unmute and share where are you joining from. Hi Kapil, can you unmute yourself?
या श्योर मेरा नाम कपिल है और मैं दिल्ली से आपके साथ ज्वाइन हो रहा हूँ
Okay, beautiful. Thank you for being here.
थैंक यू
Yeah, Jasmine, Riddhi, Jashoda, if you could just unmute shortly and share where you joining from.
Hi, I'm Jasmine and I'm joining from Toronto, Canada. Hi, sorry. So this is my daily chaos. Okay. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here.
Hi Jasmine, yeah. Good to have you.
हाँ जी, आई एम जॉइनिंग फ्रॉम चंडीगढ़. मैं चंडीगढ़ में हूँ अभी. हाय मोनिका.
Hi Riddhi, thank you for joining.
लुकिंग नाइस. आई जस्ट ऑब्जर्व्ड योर हेयर. या.
Yeah. Hi Jashoda.
Hi everyone. Hi Monica. I am Jashoda. I'm joining from Guwahati, Assam.
Guwahati, yes. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for joining. So, yeah, I think Vaishali is trying to join. Okay, Vaishali, audible. Okay. So just letting Vaishali join and then we'll start. So first of all, I think grateful to internet, grateful to YouTube and internet and Zoom, that allows us to meet no matter how far we are. So welcome Vaishali. Where are you joining from, Vaishali?
Hi, Monica. I'm from Bahrain.
Sorry?
I stay in Bahrain.
Bahrain. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Good to have you with us. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So, regarding today's session, I'm glad so many of us are interested. So, I was just going through something and I came across this text on 8 verses on training the mind. And when I read those 8 verses, I was just like something in me was full of joy, that here is something in front of us which is so beautiful. And if it would be so nice if we can practice it in this very life and not wait for when I will be ready. And thankfully, as I was thanking internet and YouTube and all the platforms that we have, thankfully we have many good teachings on Lojong or mind training, as we say, by very good teachers available online. So today we'll be making use of that. We'll be listening to little excerpts and listening to it together, maybe reading it out, listening to it, and then maybe reflecting upon it and sharing our reflections, questions, or whatever may be there. So this place is just for studying together basically, because I came across it and I thought why not study it together for whoever is interested. Because even if they say that even if you are able to practice half a verse of it, the 8 verses on mind training, that's enough. Half a verse is enough. Such is the depth and profundity of this these verses. So one thing which comes to me while we go to the 8 verses on mind training is, why to train our mind at all? What is the need? If you could, if anything is coming to you, that why should I train my mind at all? Why is it necessary? So is anything coming to you? Why should I try to, put effort? There's no right or wrong answer, whatever is coming to you. Yes, Vaishali.
Um, because if the untrained mind can cause a chaos in your life, mentally and physically both.
Yeah, beautiful. Exactly, so we all suffer the havoc of our minds, don't we? All of us, these reactive patterns that we have, and we are so swayed in our day-to-day life, and we don't know what to do. So if we have a mind, which is a beautiful tool, why not tame it? Why not train it? So we have, okay. For ease, Riddhi is saying for ease because as Vaishali was sharing, then if a mind is untrained, untamed, we are uneasy, we are not feeling good. And that tells us that that's not our true nature. This uneasiness is not our true nature. Otherwise, I'll feel at ease in uneasiness, right? So Dr. Riddhi says ease, for ease. Jasmine says to get to understand me, my, and whys of life. Absolutely. Searching for the instructions manual after going through so much of turmoil. I think good that we have turmoil, otherwise we would never care about 8 verses on training the mind. So as in Savitri, Shri Aurobindo says that it's good that at this level of consciousness where we are collectively as human beings, somehow without pain we don't wake up, without turmoil we don't wake up. So it's beautiful that we have a signal, in the sense that we have turmoil and we don't feel easy with turmoil. That's the beauty. So let us hear something from the Dalai Lama in the beginning, where he shares that what's the basic need of training the mind. Very short teaching, and then we will go to all the verses. So I'll just put it on. I hope everyone hears clearly whatever I play. So yeah, this one.
So what we see here is that our state of mind, the thoughts and emotions and attitudes that really play a central role in our experiences of happiness and suffering. So what is meant by the training of the mind, transforming the mind that we are talking about, is finding a means and methods by which we can channel and discipline our mind so that we can sort of create the basis for happiness that we are seeking.
다 ngāzu jīyōngi lū dā tenpa namshī nī ku ten tenpe rāo yawa indu sāne lū ki yungwa chānyu bu chūng na yā te jī ki jīg sēm yā dāos bā jīg khlēbar yōng tuyā yungwa chūng na sēm ko yā jīg tū dēng yā ko yungu yawa indu sāne dā sēm ki dī jī yā tundā la lū ki bāna jī lūng ki nān yōg sō rō yā na jī lū ki chūng gōg sō rō dēng pen 들어가서 가서 용답에는 요가 신들에다 지 류기직다 간다 지 정다가 타네 아니 직sem 시디야 시디 주야 근데 탑시지 아주 용되기도 하다.
When our physical health is not good, certain afflictions are present at the physical level, it affects our mental state as well. And when there is a greater degree of physical well-being, it also contributes towards a greater degree of mental well-being. And with the recognition of this basic fact, we also engage in certain forms of practices and exercises that help us bring that physical well-being so that it can contribute to greater mental well-being. And also, for example, there are in the traditional practices certain forms of practices that are aimed at sort of training of the energy patterns, what the traditional text call the wind yogas, the prana yoga.
So, stopping here, he was just basically sharing why to train the mind at all. And the thing that he mentioned in the last, that there are training which uses the wind, and that is the breath. So there are, in Tibetan Buddhism, there is a training, for example, many trainings where if you are angry, for example, and you see the ripple of anger coming in, you actually don't work with it through the thought, you work it through the breath. So you stay with the breath, stay with the breath, stay with the breath. And rather than focusing on the content of anger, you actually, by staying put with the breath, you change or reverse whatever was rising. So we are not going to that part today. We are just sticking to the 8 verses today. So this was the introduction. And traditionally it is said that these verses, which are coming from Buddhist texts or Tibetan Buddhism, they should be read by teachers who are enlightened beings. For example, one passes on to the another passes on to someone else. So for us it is easier, I would say, because we have online internet, everything is there, and on YouTube we have masters speaking to us. So we don't have at the moment the opportunity, all of us, to go to a physical teacher and get the training directly from them. So with us today, we'll listen to Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo, who is reading it out for us, all the 8 verses, and it's like initiating us into this practice. So coming from her, it is like a guru is initiating you into a practice. So let us hear her reading out these verses. First, she reads out these 8 verses. Yeah, this one.
So he starts right off by thinking of all. I will read it first, which kind of gives. In the Tibetan tradition, one is not supposed to read a text until it's been read to you by someone who themselves has had that text read to them, all the way back to the author. So sometimes, even if it's 600 pages 1,000 years ago, you still have, it's like lighting the candle. They got the match, they lit the candle, then that candle lit the flame, and so forth. So every time there's that connection back to the author themselves. So, of course, nowadays, especially with all these texts being translated, it's kind of, but still, within the Tibetan community, if you want to study a text, you have to go and find someone to give you this oral transmission. So I will just read it quickly, and then we'll go through it verse by verse. By thinking of all sentient beings as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel for accomplishing the highest aim, I will always hold them dear. Whenever I'm in the company of others, I will regard myself as the lowest among all, and from the depths of my heart cherish others as supreme. In my every action, I will watch my mind, and the moment destructive emotions arise, I will confront them strongly and avert them, since they will hurt both me and others. Whenever I see ill-natured beings or those overwhelmed by heavy misdeeds or suffering, I will cherish them as something rare, as though I found a priceless treasure. Whenever someone out of envy does me wrong by attacking or belittling me, I will take defeat upon myself and give the victory to others. Even when someone I have helped or in whom I have placed great hopes mistreats me very unjustly, I will view that person as a true spiritual teacher. In brief, directly or indirectly, I will offer help and happiness to all my mothers and secretly take upon myself all their hurt and suffering. I will learn to keep all these practices untainted by thoughts of the 8 worldly concerns, and may I recognize all things as illusions, and without attachment, gain freedom from bondage.
So this was Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo reading to us the 8 verses together at once. Yeah, anything so far? I hope we are together. Yeah, everything is clear. Okay, so now we are going to go on the verse 1. Verse by verse, we'll try to understand. I don't know how much time we have today, so let's see if we are able to take one verse or two verses. That should be enough. So the verse 1, I'll just put maybe the document in front so that one of us can read it. Yeah. Yes, okay. So I'm putting it on shared screen. If one of you can slowly, for all of us, read it, it would be nice. And then we can listen to the teaching on the first verse. Yeah, this is the first verse. Anyone who feels ready to read it?
By thinking of all sentient beings as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, for accomplishing the highest aim, I will hold them dear.
Thank you, Raviji. So this is the first one. And we have teaching of Tenzin Palmo on this first verse, which we are going to listen. Yeah, this one. So it's about 7-8 minutes long, and just stay put because there is very rich content in it, I believe. So we'll listen to it together.
Sex, birds, fish, and so forth, all beings. So, by thinking of all sentient beings as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel for accomplishing the highest aim, I will hold them dear. Now, as you know, being Indians, a wish-fulfilling jewel was that which is this mythical jewel which, if we have it, fulfills all our wishes. So if we want endless wealth, if we want our children to come number 1 in the exams, if we want somebody we love to be free from their sickness, and so forth. This wish-fulfilling jewel can fulfill all our wishes. What it cannot do is give us enlightenment. It cannot give us spiritual benefits. This wish-fulfilling jewel can only give us mundane, worldly benefits. Money, good health, beauty.
So Shreya has just entered. I thought I'll just share it for Shreya. Shreya, we are just listening to the interpretation of the verse 1, which was shared on the poster.
All right, thanks, ma'am.
But it cannot give us inner realizations. It cannot give us liberation. Who can are all these other beings, if we treat them properly, if we understand how. Therefore, they are much more precious in the long run than a mere wish-fulfilling jewel, which can only satisfy, well, it never can satisfy the endless cravings for this lifetime. But it's not going to get us awake. It's not going to help us to really inwardly transform ourselves and go beyond our ordinary, greedy, angry, self-concerned, self-cherishing mind. It can't do that. But if we relate properly with all the beings around us, we can use them as our means to transform our own mind. And by transforming our own mind, we begin to wake up. And since in order to wake up, we do need other people. Therefore, other people, other beings are more precious to us than even a jewel which grants all our worldly desires. So therefore, instead of seeing other people as the obstacle to our path, this is very important. Instead of thinking of other people as the obstacle to our path, we recognize that they are the path. That learning how to deal skillfully, especially with unskillful people, is how we learn and how we begin to mature and grow up and begin to really cultivate genuine compassion. Because, of course, it's always very easy to be friendly and loving and kind to people who are friendly, loving, and kind. Anybody can do that. It doesn't require anything. You know, if someone's nice to you, you're likely to be nice back. But the real challenge for us all is to recognize that the people who are the most difficult for us, on one level, are actually our greatest helpers on the spiritual path, because they are the people who are going to help us to really challenge our own ideas about, you know, how we should be treated by others, and our very self-cherishing mind. So this whole text is dealing, as you can see, with exactly that. So therefore, by thinking of all sentient beings as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel for accomplishing the highest aim in Buddhism is to wake up, to become a Buddha. Buddha means to waken. So it's not a matter of going off and going into Mahasamadhi for years and months and centuries. It's a matter of waking up, of actually resourcing our own innate wisdom, compassion mind, so that we are able to see things how they really are, and not the way that it is normally processed by our senses and our brain, which is very egocentric. The way we live is always revolving around me, 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 me. What I like, what I want, what I don't want, what is good for me. So the whole time we are thinking I. As somebody pointed out yesterday, in the English language at least, I is the one word which is always capitalized. And I mean, that, of course, not in all languages is that true, but it says something, you know? You, them, him, her, small letters. I, meantime. So because we live our life with the I standing supreme and everything running around it, we don't see things how they really are, either externally or internally. We are deluded in our thinking. So we are asleep. We are just dreaming, really, with all our deluded ideas and memories and opinions and so forth. So always the idea is to wake up, to finally see things with a whole different level of consciousness, of awareness, to see things how they really are. And that immediately demotes the I from a big capital letter right down into a very empty, spacious interconnection, instead of being so solitary and supreme in all the world. So therefore, sentient beings, because they help us to do this, they help us to gather this inner wisdom. Therefore, they are far more precious than anything which can just give us worldly desires, which just increases our greed anyway. So for that reason, I will hold them dear. Meaning that because we rely on other beings to help us on the path on many levels, even if one is living in isolation, one still relies on other people, to deal with supplies and working in the fields to make, to grow the crops, and just the whole internet. What to speak of if you're living within a city or in a society, we rely constantly on other beings because nobody can do everything. Even just to go and buy a kilo of rice, that has actually required enormous amounts of cooperation from enormous amounts of people, from the farmers to the animals who are pulling the plows, to the people that they're selling their seed to the people who are hitting the crop, and all the shopkeepers and whatever's in between. I mean, if we think about it, and plus the insects who are irrigating the soil and so forth, it just is infinite, just one thing. So we rely on other beings constantly. And so just to survive on this planet, we need so many helpers, seen and unseen. So we should be grateful. All these people are working together in interconnection so that we can keep living. However, verse 2, whenever
So I'm going to pause here. This is just verse 1. And there is another reading that I have. It's from a different master. And it's also very beautiful. So just reflecting upon the first verse, I'll read it again and then we'll share a few lines which I liked from here. By thinking of all sentient beings as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, for accomplishing the highest aim, I will always hold them dear. So a few lines, I'm going to read it out. A question is asked, why sentient beings are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel? So Tenzin Palmo already shared about that wish-fulfilling jewel can only grant us temporary benefits. Like if I'm not healthy, okay, grant me health, which can again go haywire again. If I want some money, grant me money, which can again go away. So it just grants us temporary benefits, such as treasures of property, money, and all that. It does not have the power to grant us the greatest benefit, which is enlightenment, which is knowing who we truly are. No matter, I think we all are witness to the fact that no matter how many desires we may fulfill, the worldly desires, still we live in an unsatisfactory condition. Yeah. So fulfilling a desire does not make us fulfilled, a worldly desire, right? And for example, if he also shares, this teacher, that one of the 6 perfections or paramitas is generosity, being generous. And if there were no sentient beings, there would be no focus for the practice of giving. So if I want to practice generosity, I need other people, other beings, so as I am able to practice generosity. And that is how we rely on each other. For example, if someone is holding such a session, we rely that, okay, there are people turning up for the session so that we can collectively read. So we are holding each other's hands, and that's why the gratitude, that we cannot do it alone. If there were no sentient beings, there would be no focus for the practice of giving, which requires other beings, which would mean that there would be no way for us to carry out the perfection of generosity. So whatever perfections are there, maybe patience, for example. How can I practice patience if I don't have people around me who are for example, difficult. So being in gratefulness to people who are difficult, so that I can practice patience and tolerance. And then it says that Shantideva, a Buddhist teacher long ago, he said that transcendent patience does not come to be when harm is absent. So I cannot say that I am patient in absence of any external harm. But when harm is being done to me, what is my attitude towards it? That tells me how patient I am. So again, grateful for those people causing harm to me, so that I can practice compassion and patience. Because in absence of those people, I would not know whether I'm patient, not patient, how much degree have I evolved. Nothing would be known. So again, grateful to all the people who are seeming to cause harm, because they are as if they are helping me practice this muscle of patience. And therefore, because of all these instances, therefore holding a caring and a cherishing mind towards sentient beings in every minute, every second of everyday life. And understanding this, we realize that yes, I have to be grateful. Otherwise, how would I practice all these things that I want to practice? So instead of complaining, one can be, once we understand this, we can be really grateful that thank God for a difficult spouse or a difficult sibling, that it gave me courage to practice patience, tolerance, compassion, self-giving, loving, caring. So they also say that, giving a story, as an example, that there was once a father who was holding something very, he had a wish fulfilling gem like this, what we are talking of, and he gave it to the child, saying that I'm going to sleep, you take care of it and don't give it away to anyone, because this is the most precious thing. Nothing is more precious than this, what I am giving to you. So the father sleeps, and the child is a child. Somebody comes and he asks for the wish fulfilling gem, and the child, in return for a candy, he gives away that wish fulfilling gem. He, of course, did not know what is the power or what is the benefit of wish fulfilling gem. So they, using this story, they say that dharma practice is the same, that once you have abandoned its essential principle, if you have given the essential principle away, even if you receive some minor sense of happiness, just like that child may have received through a candy, eating a candy gives me a minor satisfaction, but what I have given away is far more precious. You will never realize its greatest benefits. For example, if you judge, I think this is also very important. If you judge one sentient being as inferior and another as unattractive, I think we can look at all our lives. We do this all the time. So he's saying, I'll repeat this because I think this is very important. If you judge one sentient being as inferior, and sentient beings means including insects, animals, everything, that has consciousness. One sentient being as inferior and another as unattractive. So we are judging people, we are judging animals, we are judging insects, all the time we are doing that. If you feel anger or resentment towards them, then you have abandoned the bodhicitta mind. I think we have done this so many times, if we really see. But now is the time, whenever we realize, we realize. If in ignorance we have done, doesn't matter. But if knowing this, if I still continue to do this, I think that would be a pity. So if I judge one sentient being as inferior, another as unattractive, if I feel anger and resentment towards them, then I have abandoned the bodhicitta mind, which is the enlightened mind of compassion, love, and wisdom. And your so-called spiritual practice will bring very little, if any, true merit. So this categorization of people, this categorization, good, bad, evil, not evil, this does not happen, cannot happen if we are on this path. And if I have been doing this in my ignorance, now is the time when I know this, I can drop it. So the moment a judgment arises for someone, immediately looking at the judgment and letting it go away, not to follow it. Because in essence, everyone is enlightened being. Everyone is God. They don't know it, we don't know it. So if we recognize that just like me, everyone has enlightened nature, how can we judge or, take another beings as inferior, superior? How can we categorize them in boxes? Again, I think superior is easy. It's easy for us to give respect to, for example, masters and gurus. But it's hard for us to give respect to people who appear very lay. Somebody walking on the street, maybe a child, abandoned child on the street. And we struggle with this. We feel, many a times we feel aversion if we see somebody on street. But if we have this teaching in the mind, then we can change this pattern. We don't have to live that all our lives. So I felt I think this is can be very transformative. Yeah. So anything here, anyone wants to share if anything is coming to you? Any reflection, anything? Okay. So I'm assuming there is nothing at the moment. If there is, please bring it up. So we will read the verse 2.
You know,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
Just,
no.
yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
So about verse 1, so in my personal practice, so I tried practicing, that everyone's doing their best from their level of consciousness and all that. And I consciously practiced it, with the people who are really pushing your buttons. So I think in worldly sense, it's true too, but it was painful, but it was painful because in that moment, koi tumhe insult kar raha hai, at least you feel insulted, So it really kind of caused so much uncomfortableness and, pain. But if you stay with it, it's almost like that pain opens up something within you. And I think maybe that's what the language is, Bodhisattva, that you connect with it. So, and I read a quote somewhere which said, "My loved one gave me a gift." Sorry, I forgot the quote, but something like that. Okay, उसने एक gift दिया which was painful, gift of darkness. And then my loved one gave me so much darkness, and I realized that too was a gift. Something
Yeah.
like that. Sorry, completely lost track of it.
I think I've read that one. Yeah.
But yeah. So I think sometimes, I keep these simple lines with me because in the middle of when you're getting all emotional and you're trying to get reactive, I hold on to these little lines to center myself, to bring myself back.
Beautiful.
To,
Yeah.
So I think, and how you said half ही verse practice कर लो ना, so even यही एक practice करते पूरी lifetime निकल जाएगी because it's to live it on daily basis. It's very challenging. So,
Yeah.
And what a beautiful way in this. The first thing they start with this. So to me that came as a surprising this thing. I thought पहले खुद को train करेंगे, वो करेंगे, फिर जाएंगे बाहर को. But it's like straight away bomb has been dropped के पहले इससे do करो.
Yeah.
So
More
that's quite interesting.
more bombs to come. More bombs to come.
Yeah. To me this is the big bomb and I'm thinking ये सबसे पहले ये teaching थोड़ा करके दो. So that was interesting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else? Anything you want to share? Okay. So I'm moving on to verse 2 then, and just put it on the screen. Yeah, this one. So anyone who feels ready, if you could unmute and read it out for me for all of us, not for me, not only for me, for all of us. Yeah. Anyone who would like to read the verse 2?
Okay, I'll read, Monica.
Yeah, please.
Whenever I am in the company of others, I will regard myself as the lowest among all, and from the depths of my heart, cherish others as supreme.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So I'm going to share Jetsunma's teaching on this, verse 2, and then we can share our reflections. 22, yeah, this one.
Whenever I am in the company of others, I will regard myself as the lowest among all, and from the depths of my heart, cherish others as supreme. So again, this has to be understood. First of all, these texts were written by important monks in their day, who everybody held as being very important and were very polite to and seated on the highest seats and always treated very, very well. And so if they're not careful, they get a little bit proud, you know. And of course, before that, you know, in India, so many of these high scholars, even in the Buddhist world, were Brahmins or high caste. And so they took it for granted that they were superior to everybody. Nothing much has changed. So therefore, for them, it was very salutary to think that, you know, everybody else is more important than me. But really what it is saying, it doesn't really have anything to do with class or caste. What it's saying is that in general, when we meet with others, so often it happens that people are thinking, I wonder what they think of me. And we are listening to our thoughts and our opinions of that other person. And that other person is only important insofar as what they can do for me and my opinion of them. In other words, even when we are in society with others, we are still the center of our universe. And it's our opinions of them and what we perceive as their opinions of us which count. In other words, it's all me, 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 even when we're with others. And so this again creates, it creates a barrier. Because often you meet people and you can see they're not really listening to you. Or you're not really listening to them. You're just waiting for the time to give your opinion. Have you noticed? It's very rare to meet someone who absolutely empties out inwardly and just listens. Because they are not thinking of themselves. They are not thinking of what clever response they can give. They are not judging. They are just listening. And the other person is important. Themselves are not important. And that's what this means. It's not about high and low as far as, you know, social status or caste or anything. It's to do with whoever we are with. At that moment, that person is the most important person in the universe for us because it's the person we are with. One sees that very much, for example, with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Any of you who ever met His Holiness will know what I mean. Even when he's walking out and meeting like a crowd of people, and he will go to one person or another and hold their hand and look at them in the eyes, in that moment, that person, well, I mean, they feel sort of lit up, but afterwards they recognize it's because in that moment, they were the only person that existed for His Holiness. And He wasn't judging them. So He treats, I mean, He can treat the President of the United States the same as He'll treat one of the policemen guarding Him. To Him, they're all the same. They're just human beings with problems and difficulties and triumphs and joys and sorrows. In that moment, only that He's looking at the person behind the facade. And so for many people, it melts them. And for other people, especially those who are very caught up in their facade, it's very challenging. You can often see these politicians beside him looking very uptight. You know, because they find it very challenging to be with someone who is not interested that you're the chief minister of that or you're the this or that. Just looking at the person behind it all, behind the mask. But with love, not with judgment. He sees the person there. And so that tremendous compassion comes through. Because he's not thinking, oh, I'm the Dalai Lama, I hope they're impressed. You know, you can see he could care less. The only person that matters at that moment for him is the person that he's speaking to. And he speaks to them again, not in a way which categorizes them, decides they're better than me, they're worse than me, they're as good as me, nothing like that. But just with an open-hearted fellowship and compassion. So that's what this is talking about. It's not talking about, you know, that we should all develop an inferiority complex and consider ourselves to be unworthy, or everybody's better than me and I'm no use, or, you know, as a counterbalance to thinking I'm so special and who are these people, they're of no significance. It's not dealing with that. It's dealing with the fact that when we meet people at that moment, that person is of supreme importance. And we ourselves, therefore, step out the way. You know, and sometimes when people meet people, you can see, they're not seeing that person at all. They are like a monolith. There, me. You know, and everybody else is just an extension of me. And so it's, get out the way. Let the other person shine in their own light. Why are we blocking that other person? So all other people, not just people of our own social status or people that we think are attractive or important or of some benefit to us in some way. But to recognize that all beings that we meet, as I said, to each being, their own self is most precious. Doesn't matter who they are in the worldly sense. And to respect that. Respect that each one of us is really, we have so much more in common than merely our education and our social status and our race and all these, even our gender or any of these things. That is trivial compared with what we have in common with each other. So therefore, when we meet anyone, we should have that sense of inner friendliness and kindness. You know, Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That sums it up. And in the Jewish, they turn it the other way around. In the Old Testament, it says, don't do to others what you wouldn't have them do to you. And it means all others, not just people in our own social stratosphere. Because all beings, when you look in their eyes, there they are. So this verse is a very important one to remember, to when we meet with other people, to put them at the forefront. And as I said, as it were, to step out of the way, step out of their light, let their light shine. And even if it's only for a moment, there is that connection. I mean, as I say, you know, sometimes people meet with people like His Holiness or others, and it's just for a moment, you know, it's just going by, but they look at you and smile, and sometimes it transforms their whole life. It doesn't have to be a long, you know, sessions. In that moment, there is that openness and acceptance with love. And that's what, in the end, we're all looking for, is to be accepted as we are.
So this goes on a little longer also, but I think this was the essence what we just heard. And I'll just add on from this other teaching that I have on the same verse, verse 2, which is, whenever I am in the company of others, I will regard myself as the lowest among all, and from the depths of my heart, cherish others as supreme. I think this can be a very good teaching, especially to practice also, you know, people who are close to us, to whom we are not able to give respect because we have so many expectations and demands from them which are not met, and hence we have hardly any respect for them. So I think for close ones also this can be a very good practice. And in that, when I am able to do that, in any moment when I am able to hold them more dear than me, in that moment I am not giving my expectations and demands from them any importance. It doesn't matter whether my expectations and demands from you were fulfilled or not. Even then you are dear to me. And not in any mushy way, just, you know, like love and respect for other beings. Yeah. So here I'm going to read a few lines on this verse. By constantly holding others as superior to me, I think it's mostly for us the reverse. You know, we hold ourselves more superior, more, or for another one which could, you know, it could be really extremely opposite, that oh my god, who am I'm nothing. So as she was sharing, that both of these are nothing but poles of the ego only. You know, whether you consider yourself uh, too much down there, you know, so this comparison basically has to cease. All the time we are comparing either high or low. So he shares that let me be the lowest one, and in that we then don't give our thoughts and opinions and ideas so much of importance that we do usually. You know, we land up in arguments because we want to be right. So here we are giving up, we don't want to be right. You know, let other person speak, let other person, although I'm speaking and not letting you speak, but still, you know, at the moment. So by constantly holding others as superiors to me and treating them with reverence and respect, I will tame my pride and arrogance and hold others above me. And it also says something on observing mind and taming our arrogance. So it says this verse mainly teaches us that we need to observe our mind and to make sure that it will not give in to feelings of arrogance or pride towards any sentient being, other sentient being. There is a Tibetan adage that goes like this: the peak of arrogance cannot hold the spring water of merits. I think with Kabir also we have this couplet where he says that water does not stay up on the peaks of a mountain, water stays in craters on the ground. So this receptacle nature, you know, it makes us more grounded. On the peaks and tops of mountains we hardly have any a place where it can hold water. So only when we think of benefiting others single-mindedly are we able to regard sentient beings as wish-fulfilling gems that let me be of service to this whatever person we are interacting with. So keeping our needs and expectations at side, we are now in a different attitude that let me be of benefit, let me be of service to this person in front of me, not person or a being. Only when we think of benefiting others single-mindedly are we able to regard sentient beings as wish-fulfilling gems, that here is my chance to offer myself, here is my chance to give myself, to be of service, to revere them as supremely precious, that because of them you are able to practice self-offering. If they were not there, you would not be able to practice self-offering, self-giving service. And precious in the way that we do towards Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and our masters and gurus. So just like we pay respect and our the attitude changes when we are in front of any master or a guru or an enlightened being, just like that, a bodhisattva would treat all the beings in that manner with that much of respect. So I think this really gives us a lot of practice to do. So many people we meet throughout the day, so many when we are going out, maybe buying something, interacting on phone all the time, uh, with people in our house, which may treat who may be treated badly by us because they are not fulfilling our expectations, right? So there we have a lot of scope of practice, that not to give my expectations, my demands, my thoughts, my ideas, my opinions so much importance that I'm not able to be loving towards people around me. Yeah, so just reading the last point here. So there's another point shared from 37 practices of a bodhisattva. In this verse itself, it is shared. In short, wherever I am, whatever I do, to be continually mindful and alert, asking, what is the state of my mind? And accomplishing the good of others is the practice of a bodhisattva. So this, I think this is a radical shift from how we usually live, because our focus is just me, my needs, my demands, my opinion, my ideas. And now I'm just putting them all aside. I'm not taking myself seriously at all because I'm ready for it, and learning, and practicing all these perfections through others, putting them forward and in front of me and more superior than my ideas, what I want, and my worldview, that all goes to side. So this also, for an egoistic state of consciousness, it's a good practice to not to give ourselves so much of importance, because that's why we suffer so much, because we give ourselves so much of importance. My demands, my needs, they are not being met, and our relationships suffer so much. Yeah. So this was verse 2. Jasmine, would you like to share, unmute and share whatever you want to share?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel this verse when you were saying it, I don't know, it showed me so many different sides of this, you know. कि एक तो there is verse saying कि be humble. I mean, I feel like I need to sit with this. It felt heavy. It felt like I saw so many aspects of my I in here. You know, even before what I was saying, in the first verse where I was saying that everyone is doing the best from their level. In me, I saw that somewhere it has that tinge of, that somehow I know better, कि मैं वो ऐसे देख सकती हूँ, what I mean? Okay, so that, and then also the challenge, where she said, be humble about that person being there. So one-on-one, sometimes it's easier for me, like I've tried practicing it. But in a group, I got to practice this in a group where, there were a bunch of family members. But this time, I think something shifted within me, like my way of looking. I could like understand, or I felt compassion for all the parties. So there's a conflict going on between two parties. I felt the compassion for all the parties. So it was like I didn't know what to do or even how to be there. I think maybe this is the very first experience of me being aware of this experience. So that's something I need to process or reflect or sit with. So being quiet was the only thing I could do at that time. So that's why I said this second verse, it's kind of shedding light on some aspects. So that's what I meant. It feels heavy. So that's something I think I need to sit and reflect on.
Yeah.
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 Because it's pretty, I mean, in practice, because I went through something like that, and it's something, it itself is showing me my own shadows. Like I can see so much
Absolutely.
sort of even I know, spiritually I know, which I think,
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So I don't know if I feel confused right now more than anything.
No, I think it's a good place, because if something has been shaken, then I think it's a good
shaken.
place. Yeah, something good.
Yeah, that's what I feel, like a little bit shaken and heavy, like in a good way. Obviously, I
Yeah.
know that there's but yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I was just, thank you.
No, please go ahead. I was just go ahead. I didn't.
No, it's just I was just thinking, I've been trying to read some books. I have so many books on my list. But जब मैं कोई book पढ़ती हूँ ना, even Mother's book, Sunlight Path, like I read even one, I don't know, I said people how they finish the whole book. पर मुझे वो एक paragraph या एक line की depth के साथ I need to sit with it for days. So today my husband said कि इतनी books इकट्ठी कर ली है. But then I was just thinking कि मेरे को वो एक paragraph में कि इतनी वो depth लगती है कि मैं उसको process करते मैं अगली तक पहुंचती नहीं हूँ.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. I think these books are like this only, that you sit with a little bit that you've read, and there's so much intensity there. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. I think these verses, reading them also brings our focus, as with Mothers and Sri Aurobindo's words, brings our focus back onto ourselves, because usually we are always trying to change people, change situations, and always banging our head on the wall, if I can say. All the time we are doing that. And this is something where it gives us the power back and asks me to change, no matter how painful the outer situation is. I think that's the beauty, that good that the outer situation is painful, good for me. Now I can practice, some compassion, some patience and tolerance. So I think this is really, as Jasmine was sharing, like a bomb, so two bombs, and if something is shaken, good, because bombs usually shake foundations of buildings. And we are like, as she was sharing, we are like monolith, and buildings, we have become buildings. So it's good that these bombs are dropped on us and something is shaken. Yeah, because we are not these buildings. That's what we have to recognize, that whatever we are sticking to as myself, that's not our true nature. That's not me. So good, I think whatever falls has to shatter away. Good that it shatters away. And of course, it pains and hurts in the process. Yeah. Yeah, anyone else? Any reflection to share?
Hi.
Yeah.
So great reflections all around, and agree with all of it. And then the thought came, where is there, at least seems in modern day life, the difference or the border where if one is like giving to a particular relationship, say, or situation, in the light of this, right? Making the other's needs important. And then you start to feel like you're being taken for granted, or it even enables the other person, to take either your efforts or the dynamic or the flow of efforts just to become one-sided. And I was just sitting with that thinking, okay, so yeah, is it a case of simply there is no concept of being taken for granted? because this is at a level at which taking for granted doesn't even come into the picture. Is being taken for granted or one-sidedness a purely ego point of view? And is this, if you'd like, higher or deeper or something like that? Is it then that just doesn't come into it? Like she was mentioning about the Dalai Lama. Yet I'm not at that level of Dalai Lama yet in my consciousness. So yeah, how to be honest and authentic about it and not just pretend like, okay, yeah, I don't know. That's just what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, Swapna, what you are mentioning and what I'm understanding is that at the level of in terms of our relationships, what we try to do is that to one or two particular persons, we try to give a lot. And when we don't get in return, we suffer. Although it may be out of love plus a mixture of other things that we are giving, yet we don't get things in return, as we expect them to be back. And that makes us suffer. Now, the way of Bodhisattva that we are reading today, studying today, a Bodhisattva would not give himself to one person. And no wonder that whenever we have tried giving ourselves to one person, we have always failed. Always we have failed. Why? Because if that love comes to fruition, then what happens that I limit myself to that one person. My love becomes very narrow. My whole attention is just on one, two persons, my family, my intimate relationships, and I'm satisfied, I'm content. While the beauty is that no matter how much giving I am in my relationship, my love will never be returned back. It's not only with you, with all of us, because I am not supposed to be narrowing down my love to one or two persons. We are not made for that narrowness. That's why it never comes to a good result that we want. So I think in retrospect, it's good for us that our romantic relationships mostly are a failure, because we are not supposed to live a narrow life, giving ourselves only to one person, two persons. And I have personally, in my own experiences, seen that when I stopped giving myself to one person, because there is love in us, it's not that love is not there, then I was able to open my heart to more people in my life, rather than just giving. And that giving is always mixed with expecting in return, and that never happens. It makes us suffer. So rather than just giving obsessively to one person, why not open ourselves to whoever comes in my life? And then I don't also have to suffer in wanting to get a return back. Then I think one can embark on this path of Bodhisattva, that okay, now I am here, my life is not dedicated to just one person. Whatever beings I get in touch with, I'll offer myself equally to them. How beautiful, how nice.
Yeah, actually, that's good. It's a good reminder. It actually reminds me once of sitting with Byron Katie in person. And she often used to say in her programs, the one I love most is the one in front of me. And yeah, just saying that like her husband, Stephen, had just walked by and she was talking to me and they greeted each other, and then he went by and then she was with me and she was like, you see, Stephen's gone now. If I was thinking about him, then I wouldn't be with you, and I'm now, you're the one I love most because you're the one I'm sitting with. So yeah,
Beautiful. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this happens with us, that if my attention is too focused on one or two persons in my life, then whoever person or beings I am in interaction with, half of my attention is with, attached to those other people. I'm not able to be fully here in the now. And while if my most intimate relationships are taken away, now suddenly I'm so free. Now I can give myself equally to each person. So although it may cause me pain, which it does, it's not that it's free of pain, but how beautiful that it opened my heart to every person alike. So yeah, that's the benefit of not having one or two special relationships. Why not make every interaction a special one? Yeah.
Yeah, it's big work. I used to always think I kind of, it was like it's like a no-brainer. It's like, of course, intellectually or as a theory, but if you really unpack it and sit with it, it's like, yes, it's very deep, or it's having to, I don't know, let go of a lot to think, yes, literally every person you're with, the way she was saying about Dalai Lama, how he greets everybody, or anybody I may be in my life, and the way Katie also said, it's like, wow, to really not have the mind off with the people that are so-called friends, family, partners, and to actually just be with a person in a shop, or be with an acquaintance, or be with a colleague at that same amount of openness and big-heartedness. It's
that's beautiful.
Right. It's big.
Yeah, I think that's why our most seemingly, tragic things in relationships, they give us so much. They give us so much because of that attachment in relationship, I was not able to be in the here and now with wherever I was. And the moment that relationship breaks apart or not doesn't work well, or I did not get what I wanted from that relationship, now I feel free. There's an inner freedom that now I can belong to anyone. Each person in this whole world, I can belong to anyone at any moment of time. Now I don't have to belong to one particular person, special one in my life, because then it makes my love very narrow and limited. And we are not born for that narrowness. So yes, it's really very powerful, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, anyone else? Any last comments? Any reflections? All right, so I'm assuming there is no further reflection. And I think we have enough material to reflect upon that we came across today. So yeah, I think we'll continue this. We have 8 verses. We can continue next Thursday also. We'll take up maybe 1 or 2, whatever time permits. And it's really nice to together reflect upon it and make it a part of our life, and not just reflect upon it, but, and as we said in the beginning, that even half of a verse, if we practice, out of 8 verses, even half of one verse, if I am able to practice, I think that is enough for a lifetime, not one day, but for a lifetime. So that gives us a lot of space to practice. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in today and listening and reflecting together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.